Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Welcome. It's Monday. It's Advocates Week. We get to speak to advocates all week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to be speaking to people who fight for you, whether you like them or not. They're out there fighting for you. And they're the best type of people. Without advocates, we don't have much of a democracy. We don't have a way to let people know what we think. We don't have a way to get the message out. We don't have a way to rally the troops, gain support, speak your mind. Advocates are super, super important to our democracy. And nowadays, you have some advocates who can freely go ahead and protest, and then you have some advocates who get pushed down, get booted, get told they can't, have ordinance to come in, they have bylaws, they bring in an EA, Emergencies Act, to stop advocacy. So we're going to highlight advocates all week. We're going to start with veteran advocate, Mr. Alex Cabana, Kandahar Cabana. And we're going to be going into tomorrow with Dacey from Save Canada, street advocate. We have some fierce advocates on Thursday. We have Beth Ann Nadal and Stacy. I keep forgetting her last name, Stacy. I apologize. I'll get it by the time we have it Thursday. But some fierce advocates. They're actually on the street doing the hard work. And then on Friday, we have musical advocate. We have Greg Arcade. He's going to be, I don't know if he's playing live, but he's going to record something. He's going to let us play a video or two or a song. So you're going to have some of his music, and he's a wonderful advocate with music. If you don't know who he is, he's a Manitoba artist. Go check him out. GregArcade.com. But today we're going to be talking to a veteran advocate. Now, I called him a veteran advocate, not just because he's a veteran, which is a wonderful thing. Thank you for your service, Alex. We'll get into that. But he's also advocating for veterans. So as a veteran, for veterans, what a wonderful way to spend your time. He was there during the convoy. He supported people. He was there protecting the monument, not from the protesters, but from the government. They wanted to make a message of that monument. They wanted to make it seem like there were some weird people there doing bad things, and there wasn't. It was the cleanest it's ever been. It was the safest it's ever been. And that damn fence had to go. So we'll be talking to him about his time there. We'll also talk to him about his work with Patriot Propaganda. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's another voice like this out there having conversations with people that you'll never see on mainstream unless they're talking bad about them. Then you will. But if you want to talk to the people and learn who they are, you go to his show, you go to my show, you reach out to people like us and you follow our stuff. And he's also working with Save Canada. This guy has a lot of irons in the fire. And we're going to hear how he's dealing with that and how he recharges and how he handles even his home personal life as well. Because this is not just an advocate, this is a man. So we're going to spend some time getting to know the man behind the advocacy, the veteran behind the work that he's done, and the sacrifices he's made and why he's done them. I had a bit of a moment with him before this, but if you check my stream and you check his stream, he actually interviewed me maybe last week, a week before. Such an honor. I've been doing this for a little bit of time, but my passion is to reach many voices out there as I can, to talk to people, to hear them, and to communicate with them. So to be invited to be a guest on a show like Patriot Propaganda was an honor. It was an honor. So if you haven't seen that episode, check it out. It's certainly one of the best videos I made because I was part of it. I got to answer questions and I got to be treated like a gentleman, because this is exactly what the environment he gave me was. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Alex on and we're going to talk to him about being a veteran and being an advocate. Alex, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm good. Thank you for having me on, Jason.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and it's also my honor. Thank you very much for your service. We say this all the time, but we really mean it, Alex. People like you picked up where most of us leave off, and you went and did the things that we need, and we need to have people like you doing. So sincerely, from the bottom of all my heart here, thank you for doing that for us, and thank you for doing what you do now for us as well. I don't know if people tell you that, but they need to. Thank you for your service, brother.
Chimo.
So, not too long ago, I got to meet you. I'm not even sure how we met. I think somebody told me to go check you out. And then through Twitter, I kind of reached out and yada, yada. Dude, can I get you on my show? Dude, can you get you on my show? We both said that. We did that. And then ever since then, I've got to spend a lot of time with you and people around you. There's quite a circle of good people around you. So first, thank you for inviting me into your home like that, your station. And thanks for, continuing the conversation after the fact. I do feel like, I've made a friend here. So thank you for reaching out like that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, 100%, bro. Yeah, it's Twitter is an awesome space for like professional connection, not just humor and not just trolling, not just positivity, not just negativity, but it is a professional space. And like yourself, like many people in this space, not many of us thought that we would become activists. I certainly didn't, at all.
Right. And then voices on top of that, where people are tuning in to hear what we have to say, and from the people we're talking to. It's quite the honor to have found myself in that position. And thank you for people like you who are also doing it. We need many more. I think we need many more of us out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rewind a bit. So I kind of took us to who the man is today, but I kind of want to learn about who you were before. Now, we don't have to go all the way to birth, but what I am curious about is when you first kind of noticed or decided that you wanted to get into the military in some capacity and serve for Canada. Was there a moment where you saw something, you said, I want to help? Or was it a life call where you kind of always felt you were going to head that way? Or was there something else that kind of popped up in your life to make you say, you know what, I kind of need a little bit more experience in this area of my life, and you headed that way?
Good question. So yeah, I was born and raised here in Canada. My family's been here for hundreds of years, Spanish and French Quebec descent. So I'm bilingual, trilingual-ish. In any case, yeah, I have no military history in my family, save for my grandfather, who was an Air Force pilot in World War II, but he died back home afterwards. So, but no military history in my Canada really to speak of. Sorry, in my family to speak of. But I definitely was a fan of movies. Growing up in the 80s, basically go outside, play hard, and come back before the lights go off, and avoid white vans and all that jazz. So we were allowed to play with BB guns and be kids, and also watch Full Metal Jacket and whatever movies that were there. So I did fall in love with war movies, I suppose, and. But yeah, the big moment for me was is where I met my wife. We worked at a coffee shop cafe together, and I met a World War II veteran named Sergeant Bert Piper, who was one of the. He lied about his age and joined the war at the age of 16, and he joined the Special Air Service when they first started, and he would tell me his stories, and so. That kind of brought up all of the things that I was interested in when I was a kid. But the big ticket thing, man, was September 11th
Right.
for me. So that was watching it actually happen. I saw the second plane hit the building, and that was a catastrophic moment. That was the beginning of the first psyop I've ever known in my life. So the War on Terror, in my opinion, was a psyop. And it got a lot of people like myself to join the military for that singular purpose, where I was like, okay, I need to go to war to fight these people.
And you recognized pretty early there was a psyop? Like there's some signs to you?
No,
or did you learn?
no, not until I was actually there.
Okay.
Not until I was actually there. So I joined the Army in 2000. Well, I signed up in 2004, and then I was actually signed in January 2005.
Oh wow.
So it took 4 years. It took a couple years for me to decide what I wanted to do. Then I decided to do it, and the process of getting somebody enlisted, it was not that long, but about a year and a half, I think. So pretty much from 2001 to 2005, I was in. And so once I was in, I had to get my trade qualifications. I joined as a combat engineer, so as a sapper.
Wow.
And yeah, so from that point, from that point, I did all the training that was required, and then I volunteered for the first available deployment based off of whatever skill set that I had at that time, because they have various positions, right? So I ended up deploying in 2010 to Afghanistan.
Wow. So straight to Afghanistan is your first deployment. Now you said combat engineer. Is that somebody who works on the strategy or engineering things like equipment and dams and roads? So what kind of engineer were you?
Yeah, good. A lot of good question. A lot of people ask that. You know, I've had people say like, "Oh, you're a civil engineer?" Like, no. We
Right.
just
Like, but they use that term for many things. So
yeah. We smash stuff and destroy stuff. We're basically the field. For those who don't know, in the army, you have what's called the combat arms. There's many
okay.
trades, right? But you have infantry, armored, engineer, and artillery. So engineers, our job essentially is to help friendly forces live, move, and fight in the battlefield and deny the same to the enemy. That was the motto of the combat engineer. So in that space, you can specialize in bridging or counter bridging, in mines, in breaching. You can go kinetic or you can go as technical as you wish, depending on what. Once you get to the rank of sergeant, you basically have to choose what your specialization is,
Mhm.
or you just go straight into leadership beyond that point, which is where you get to kind of mentor everything. So we're subject matters. We're experts in everything and masters of none. You know.
Well, I have a new favorite term. What did you call that? Unbridging or debridging? What'd you call that there?
Bridging or counter bridging, I suppose.
Counter bridging. That was a counter
It's
bridging.
mobility. Counter mobility is the actual term. Yeah,
Right. So counter bridging, I'm assuming, means to take one down.
yeah, to destroy them. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I
So
love that term.
explosives are what we are known for.
Right.
To make a long story short.
Well, I like how you said kinetic and tactical. So you're letting us know whether you blow it up or you use some other way to take it down. I like that lingo. It kind of reminds me of Elon Musk with his rapid unscheduled disassembly or
Right.
exploded.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Another way
exactly.
of saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can go full
Um,
hammer to smash something, or you can be as technical as you wish.
right. So basically, you're the guy who will make your progress happen and then stop the other side from progressing by
Exactly.
using a whole bunch of different things to do that, and
Exactly. Yeah.
basically anything that you need. All right. So did you build a bridge? You had the skills to. So can you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
take us through?
I've built many bridges. Like we have two particular types that they use in NATO. One is the MGB and the other one is acro. So acro is like an older style of bridge, which is a little bit more technically based. The more technical requirements in order to build it, more resources,
Mhm.
more manpower, more tools, and the other one is MGB, which is medium girder bridge. It's basically big giant Lego pieces that are pre-assembled. They're not pre-assembled, but they come on a pallet and you just load them off. And then it takes like, it's a 4-man carry for each piece. They're probably about 400 pounds each. And then you just kind of assemble it like Lego blocks, and they will cross a gap of about 40 meters.
So are you at that level now where you can watch war movies and say, ah, that's Hollywood, or oh wow, they did a pretty good job there, and oh, we would never do that, or holy smokes,
Yeah,
I want to steal that idea. Like, do you
absolutely.
watch? Yeah, you do that.
Yeah. My wife cannot watch a war movie with me because there's no point.
You have the narration on all the time, and the DVD's not working to shut you up or anything, right?
Yeah. Not
Yeah, I
just the
do that with.
tactics and everything, but it's the whole thing. And yeah.
Very good, very good. Now you're retired now, so you've been retired for a little while. So you
Yeah,
were
it
in
was
2010.
actually
You were deployed.
it wasn't a voluntary retirement. So I was medically released in 2020. So I was released 3B, which is basically a medical release based off of injuries sustained in service, and they were
Okay.
injuries I sustained from my time in service. And so 2020 March 15. So 15 March, 2020, man, right before the nonsense started. I was
Right.
actually very fortunate because I would be one of those people that would have been 5F'd. That I would have been dishonorably discharged. I would not have taken
Right.
the gene therapy, injection. So, I was very fortunate, very, very fortunate.
Well, you're fortunate to get out for medical reasons before that medical stuff kicked in, so that allowed
Mhm.
you to leave without dishonor. So you were left for medical purposes. Would
Yeah.
that have affected your services after or anything like that?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know if you get any payments or anything like that as being a vet. Well, first let's start to there. Do they take care of you now that you're out?
Yeah. So they do, because I didn't have to deal with any of that administrative uh, BS, that process. That at that point in time, vaccines weren't even a thing, right? Sorry, injections. The stuff wasn't a thing.
The drug.
So yeah, whatever we want to call it,
Mm.
we weren't even, Operation Warp Speed was not even a thing. This was just like the mass hysteria, like stay home, and everyone stayed home for the first 2 weeks. So in that sense, I was actually, at the beginning, I was a little bit worried that the paperwork would take a longer time because no one was working, like all buildings were vacated. And I literally submitted all my paperwork like that day, I think like March, well, not that day, but like a week prior, like everything was finalized. I had to go into the building, handed my paperwork, handed my ID, handed my building codes, like all that jazz. Like, here's everything. And so I was hoping that it would take less time, or sorry, it was going to take more time is what I thought, but it actually took way less time. So yes, to answer your question, I do get, so Veterans Affairs takes care of basically 90% of my salary. And there's various other programs, Veterans Independence Program and all this jazz. I mean, I could do a podcast on VAC in itself, but through lots of administrative know-how and lots of struggle, I do have everything that that I should have.
Great. Now, if you left with that other one, 5F or something that you think you referred to, would that be the case? Would you still be able to get the
God,
services?
No.
Okay, so
you would,
that's what you meant by lucky.
Yeah, you would receive nothing. Receive nothing, and you would no longer be able to work for a federal department with a particular security clearance ever again.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you were able to maintain a security clearance, so you can go and work for certain departments if you wanted to, but you would not have been able to. And I guess anybody else who did stand up during that and did get a 5F, that's their situation now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like a 5F, just to put it into context for folks, is something that my friend James Top was facing, but we won't get into that because he's still not done his journey.
We'll wait till
But
he
in any
finishes.
case,
Yep.
yeah, in any case, he to be 5F is it's, they don't call it dishonorable discharge, but it's, if I had punched my CO in the face or sexually assaulted someone, I would get the same release category as somebody who refused to take the injection. Like,
wow, they came harsh. So is there a 5? Is there other levels of it? Is there a 4F or 3F?
Yeah, there's this, so it's like 1 through 5, and then alpha through Foxtrot. There's many kinds.
So 5 Foxtrot is by far like the worst. Like it's a F minus as far as
I think it's like second worst. There is one worse than that, believe it or not. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the QRNOs or the DA.
Maybe around treason or something like that, like severe.
Yeah. There is one worse.
Okay. Well, the second worst is to take the experimental drug, and that can get you severely, even if you're there for 20 years, your whole kit and caboodle will be affected.
Like people, like I've known, so not known, I know of soldiers who have been released 5F for child pornography. So just to put that into context.
Right.
Right.
And I don't think we have a problem with that, but for not doing something that, it couldn't have been a 1F, 1 Foxtrot. It couldn't have been a lighter sentence or a lighter thing.
It's well, now we're getting into the administrative stuff, but it's
sure.
But essentially that's the deal. So I was fortunate that I didn't have to deal with any of that, and so because of that, I was able to kind of take my time to figure things out. But also, see, the thing is that 2 years prior to that, I was on what they call a TCAT, a temporary category, and the TCAT is basically designed. Before you get kicked out medically, they put you on temporary medical categories, and then you're allowed multiple of those. And then you get into what's called a permanent category, which means, okay, you are no longer suitable for service. You do not meet the universality of service. And so you spend during that time, basically, you're being prepped as to what it is do you want to do when you get out. So number one, cool. do you need therapy? Do you need physiotherapy? Whatever you need to become a functioning member of society again, those tools are there. They're available for you. Mm-hmm. So I had, so speaking of veterans advocacy, I joined this group called Camp Aftermath, which is run by veterans for veterans, and really cool cats, man. Ferid Yagini. So shout out to you, Ferid. He's an awesome guy. He started it, but essentially what he would do is take veterans to Costa Rica, and you do some philanthropy and you do some community service work. So we went to La Carpio in San Jose, Costa Rica, and we built like bathrooms for community centers and stuff like that for Nicaraguan refugees from the communist wars, which were still left over from the 80s. And so we did stuff like that. And so that was kind of my thing, is I wanted to get into helping veterans going forward. But then coming home on the 15th of March, they locked everything down. And so I also had I was on vocational rehabilitation. So I was going to be paid to go to school. I was intending on taking psychology. I was intending on getting a master's in psychology. I was intending on doing all these things, and they shut everything down, and that's it. Boom, done. And it was just suffer at home. And, liquor stores are open, gyms are closed. And so every prospect that I had planned for was destroyed. So I'm not the only one that was facing these things, but yeah. So that was real. I was stewing. I was trying to figure out what is going on.
That was my next question. Like, how did COVID affect you coming out, starting your retirement, getting back into society? Because some of the services would have been closed or shut down from you.
Yeah. So I left this institution. And it is an institution. Make no mistake about it. You are indoctrinated into service. And it's a necessary step. It truly is. You can't create people that can kill life, can take life without having some level of indoctrination, dehumanization, right?
Right.
These things exist. That is propaganda. So you have to be able to understand those things. And but the whole point was, you're going to be free now, my dove. Out you go. But then I entered this new realm of propaganda, of establishment, institutional fear. That at first, like, don't get me wrong. At first, I was like, I don't know what this is, right? Like, so
like the rest of us,
right. I'm a prepper at heart, man. So I've got my kid, I've got my food, I'm squared away. And so whenever there's a deadly virus that's out there, I'm like, bro, I'm good. So my wife and I were like, we're squared away. We can live. We're good for like 6 months solid. So, but then I just started observing, and then it was like, well, gyms are closed, but liquor stores are open, and then there was no mask for the first 6 months. And then there's a mask.
They didn't. Yeah, they said it didn't work, or they wanted
right?
the PPEs.
And you're racist because you don't like Chinese people. And I was just like, oh, whoa, this is insanity. So that's when, right away I was like, hey, there's something going on here. And just like any war, people are going to profit, and people are going to try to manipulate for the jockeying for that best profiteering position. And the media propaganda industrial complex was on full steam. So that's why I mentioned.
And
the
you
war
can
on
recognize it. You can see what it looks like.
Yeah.
So to you, it's as plain as day. It's revved
right,
up and running.
Right. And we haven't even touched into like what I did after tour, but I retired as a warrant officer, and I was taking courses in Oberammergau, Germany. So I was working with the NATO school at the intelligence school. So not only was I a combat engineer, but I've been formally trained in NATO intelligence and propaganda and psyops, psychological operations.
Well,
so
that's excellent.
So like this was the sniff test was like, it just smelled like shit. Excuse my
You almost saw the fingerprint. You're like, I know who did that. Like, dude, I basically know the program.
Yeah. It was absolutely. I was like, yeah.
No tinfoil, nothing, because you actually were trained, and you know how to understand this stuff. You see the progression. You see the mental, like how they go after psyop. So to you it was like, okay, there's a hallmark. I know who this is. But to everybody else, it was like, oh no, what's going on? So when you saw society responding and falling for this propaganda, the way it's designed and supposed to work, did that have an effect on you? And what did you say about your neighbors? Or did you talk to them? Like, were you out there saying, guys, this is a psyop? Or were you understanding that maybe they won't believe you, or were there any troubles around that?
Yeah, it's at that point in time. I mean, as you see right now, the free floating anxiety has turned into something else completely, right? Like the term, I think it's Dr. Matthias there, who came up with the mass formation psychosis, was absolutely correct. But this has been on the largest scale that we've ever seen. Yeah. So, the war on terror was its own smaller kind of beta cousin, so to speak, for that precise thing, right? You may not support the war, but you got to support our troops. So there's guilt, and then there's fear, and then there's patriotism. So these are three powerful elements in a not in nationalist societies, right? Now that we are the post-national state and globalism has really come
Right.
to the limelight. Although globalism has been going on for quite a long time, Rothschilds, blah 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 blah. We can get into all that, but I'm sure everyone listening knows all of this stuff. But to have seen it go from micro to macro, that's where I was like, the level of conversation. So with actual friends, close friends, with guys who know me or who served with me, it was a 50-50 split. Some were completely bought into the propaganda, and some were not. And so to try and explain that to civvies, to a civilian, it was very difficult. So I've lost many friends, even like I'm the godfather to two kids. I was their godfather for 18 years, friends with them for a decade. They want nothing to do with me once I started to, speak out about these things. And I know millions of Canadians have faced the same thing. So, and I was like, well, that's the byproduct of this type of psychological activity.
Wow. And it's bothering me because even with your friends and they know you, like they know you, 50% of them, even part of the military, didn't see it. So that indoctrination, maybe that they went through the military and media, and maybe they had it before the military as well, is very strong, where they really believe the government, you think? Or is it they just don't have a critical mind?
No, I think it's neither of those. It's that
Okay.
it's really quite simple. It's that mission creep. So if you're still in the war's over, like the goal of a soldier is to have if with no mission, there's no point. So there has to be a mission, and this became the new mission. This was it. And so in Canada, it's called Op Lentis. So Operation Lentis is anything domestic. And this is all open source information, so I'm not breaching any classification rules here. But yeah, Operation Lentis is anything domestic. So aid to civil power, like finding drug fields, floods, all of that jazz. This became that, right? So sending the military into the hospitals, like you saw in Quebec, and all of these things. That's all part of Op Lentis. And so if you were still in, so I myself, I'm out, right? So I'm able to now actually, I'm free from my responsibilities of my top secret clearance to a degree, but I can now speak. I can now have a political opinion, a public opinion. I can now do these things. So that's a liberty that a lot of guys in the forces don't have. And so when you're still in, like I said, a soldier without a mission is just a bloated carcass. There's zero energy there. So even if it is a lie, you need to get after it, right? Like you need something to do. So a lot of dudes were just like trying to see what the heck was going on. And I don't know if you remember, but like the first 6, 7, 8 months, all of the Canadian forces, they were all at home as well. Everyone.
Okay, so you were all locked down as well. So you weren't out doing anything. Okay.
Everyone. All the combat arms, every infantry regiment, everyone except for SOFCOM. A very small, so special operations forces dudes would be on do some type of training. They would be the only ones allowed to go to the particular ranges that are here in the NCR, National Capital Region. So but basically every combat soldier in Petawawa was told to go home. Every soldier in Valcartier was told to go home, Edmonton, so on and so forth. So they're all drinking beer, having a great time, because it's pretty dope, right? Anyone working in the government at that time is still getting your 60, 70, 80 to $130,000 salary, drinking beer, working from home. It's good times.
And I'm sure a lot of them would have preferred to do something else.
Absolutely. But it was like, no, like you are getting paid to go home and do as you wish. Gyms are closed though, but LCBO is good. So imagine what that does. Like if you have any military strategic mind as a politician, like just that alone, that demoralization phase, that period of time, it's 6 months off. It's going to take you 2 years to get that back.
And I can see that kind of generates a mindset of, I just want to get back and I don't really care and I'll do whatever they want and I just want to be back there. So maybe that might have been a reason why some of the people didn't push back on any narrative or anything like that, because their alternative is to go home and sit on their butt. So Could you think maybe that played a role in why they didn't push back or chose not to see it for what it is?
Yeah, that's a very good question, man. Because once again, within an institution like that, its foundation is to indoctrinate people into their ethos, which is not a bad one. You still have a myriad of personalities and temperaments, and you have a myriad of financial situations, marital situations, familial situations. So at that point in time, it was, I'm going to use free floating, but not in a psychological sense, that just everyone didn't know what the heck was going on. So there's no point in the pushback at this particular time, other than like, damn, like I'm getting fat or I'm losing my skill set here. I need something to do. Right. So, but that's a personality trait. Some people just cannot sit still. I myself, I go on vacation. I have to do something. I can't just sit on.
Yeah, I'm that way too.
Right. So that's a personality thing, right? That's an aspect of your personality and your temperament. But when it came to you must do this, you will take this particular jab. That's when the economic, the marital, the familial all came into play. I know a lot of guys that didn't want to take it, but their wives were like, dude, just take it. Like, our mortgage is sky high. Kids, like, so a lot of I would say over 60 to 70% of the people who did take it took it because they're like, I have no choice. So I have friends personally that fought right to the bitter end, but then took them. And then you have guys like James that was like, I'm not doing it. I'm marching across the country, So it all depends on what your situation is, what you're willing to sacrifice.
That's
sacrifice
amazing.
Is the key, right? It's really it's a key to a lot of things. What are you willing to put up with, and what are you willing to give up?
And that is something actually that's kind of indoctrinated in you as a soldier, isn't it? Like, you got to sacrifice yourself, your time, your body, your pain, everything to be a soldier. So you have this sacrifice, something bigger than me built into you. But that itself wasn't enough for some of them to stand their ground like James Topp did and say, look, I'll sacrifice my entire career because it's the right thing to do. Some of them still didn't have, I don't want to say the luxury to, but some of them were put in a position where that just simply was not a viable option for them to just turn their back on their career, their income, the family support, and additional services that they may need because of their involvement with the military. That's what we call duress. That's what we call, there's legal terms around that, because you shouldn't be doing that. Now, one thing that kind of struck me that I didn't know until you mentioned it here. So the military was not deemed essential services and were not deemed to continue to be provided or needed for our service in any way, shape, or form. And I guess I'm glad that our enemy didn't know this, because we kind of stood down during COVID with our military. Is that like a bit of an assessment, or were they ready to go like that if they had to?
So that's a surface level, 100% accurate observation. However, from the administrative side, the policy side, from NDHQ down, is that no, the military did not stand down. They just had various levels, right? So level within D&D, there's like level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, like 1 is like it's operational 24/7, no matter what. So we did have, so basically we were at, and I'm just going to throw a number out there for context, is like, let's just say we were at 25% stand to strength, 75%, anything that was deemed unnecessary was told to stand down. So, but that meant training, the regular routines of actual line 1, like level 1 regiments. Training is no longer required. So no one was doing their annual first aid tests. No one was doing their annual fitness tests, their explosives training, their firearms training, you name it, whatever it is that your trade, whatever you were responsible for in your trade, you're not doing any of that. Only, a small percentage would be on standby if something were to happen, strictly domestically. If anything were to happen in an expeditionary context, or like internationally, not good.
Not good. And did you know if the other militaries were doing that? Do you know if US was doing that, UK, or I would assume Australia probably was, because they do a lot.
I don't know for certain, but I would assume the West, NATO as a whole, because this
the Five Eye group.
the Five Eyes and NATO, right? Like even larger than that, outside of the Five Eyes. So France is not Five Eyes, but
Right.
this propaganda, this thing seemed to have happened simultaneously, and it was done in very concerted effort towards Western nations.
Right.
I
So
don't know if
everybody
you
under
noticed that.
NATO.
Right. Like everyone was dealing with it at the beginning, but like Africa and India and China and all these other countries, they did their own thing. But NATO was definitely handicapped. Yeah.
So are you suggesting, or maybe we're kind of understanding a bit, that we're not an autonomous military? So we do have orders and other type of influence from NATO? Because it seemed like there was a coordinated effort where they all said, we're doing this for the next little bit. Was Canada in a position, and is Canada in a position to autonomously make its own decisions, or are we aligned in NATO in such a way that there is like a general or some sort of command that can come down to Canada that we kind of have to follow? I want to understand, are we militarily separate, or are we militarily collectives here?
Well, so on paper, technically, yes, we are supposed to be a sovereign nation. We have a sovereign military, and that the chief of defense staff is not elected. The chief of defense staff reports to the Minister of National Defense, and the Minister of National Defense is elected, and so on and so forth. And that's a cabinet position. But when you're the one of the unfortunate byproducts of being part of a group is that you need to play along, because everyone makes a sort of a covenant to be a part of that group.
Well, there's one drumbeat.
Absolutely, and that's where the whole kind of guilt and shame comes to. Well, you don't care about your neighbor, you don't care about mom, grandma, right? Like, so that happens at all levels of human interaction. So there's nothing on paper that says that like our only obligation to NATO, simply put, is our supposed 2% GDP contribution, which still isn't even met.
Right.
But the social pressure, peer pressure, is a real thing, and it's at every single level.
So what's the difference between UN and NATO? Like, does the UN, I know we do peacekeeping with the UN, like what's the difference in the relationship there?
Well, NATO's sole purpose is to keep Russia at bay post World War II, and the UN is a national body of sovereign nations cooperating together for the global good.
Right. So when we see like UN police or UN military or people working for the UN on a military standpoint, who are they? Are they from each country and they're kind of just part of that, or is that a separate force altogether?
So it's like volunteer countries get together and they will, contribute a certain percentage of their military might or resources to a particular UN project. So the most recent one in Canada was Mali. That was one that Trudeau had brought us into. The first time we had done a peacekeeping one in a while, because we were involved in the Operation Enduring Freedom and the War on Terror. But Mali was a big one, and that's when he was at the same time vying for his seat on the Security Council with the UN. So that anyone who participated in Mali, basically, in a nutshell, you had to commit a certain level of money and or fighting strength. But once those countries submit those soldiers to that area, they're now governed by the United Nations.
Right.
Under their exactly under their law of armed conflict, under their administrative structure. You still have, it's like tactical, like you have operational command and you have tactical command and control. So you're not under their command per se, but you're under international law. And also the thing is, like, even when we were in Afghanistan, we were operating under the law of armed conflict, which is also a written body agreed to by a set group of nations.
International, yeah.
Right. So that's effectively, if that makes sense. I'm not sure.
Now, is this like the all-star? So we send the best of our best, or are we just sending what we have available? Like, who are the ones that get recruited into that one? Is it strictly volunteer? I want to go to UN and help there, or are they kind of recruiting like, here's the best of the best, and we're bringing it to the global level? Who ends up in there? Do you know?
Do you mean at the strategic level, like which countries or which personal soldiers?
Which resources do we send for enforcement? Are we sending our top soldiers, or are we just sending people that want to volunteer?
Yeah, so there'll be like there'll be a strategic level assessment, essentially. Like I'm not sure what it is I've never operated at the UN level, but essentially there'll be like a G1, personnel. They'll sort out what personnel we have available, what is required, and then what can you contribute. There'll be a minimum bar of what it is that is required to be accepted to the mission. But typically you need to add more to that, because many people vie for this for whatever political reasons. But let's say they need helicopter support, they need medic support, they need administrative support, technological support, you name it. So if you have those resources available, you apply, they take you, and then within Canada, they'll pool those assets together, and then create a kind of a rubric, and then send those people up.
And that rubric, it's the best of the best, or is there some other calculation, like
it's
resource-wise?
Whatever's available.
Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out if it's like an all-star team or like an expansion team. Like an expansion team will just take some from each team.
No. For us, for in that Canadian Mali mission, it was just like whatever. Just don't shoot yourself and don't make us look bad.
Yeah, because what I was trying to get at, are they trying to collect all the best of the best to be an elite global thing and leaving us with good soldiers? But if for whatever reason, if this NATO group decides they need to do something in Canada, I don't know, maybe have a convoy and we call them in, is that who's going to show up? Is it going to be like our best soldiers coming to Canada? And is that even possible? Like, because the soldiers in Canada are not supposed to be against Canadians. I believe that's part of the law. So if they're working with the UN in that group, and for whatever reason they decide we need to go to Ottawa to help them out, could we end up with Canadian soldiers on Canada soil against citizens?
Well, like I said, that Operation Lentis would be the deciding factor. So the ultimate green light, red light would be, is this aid to civil power?
Okay, so the government is calling for it.
Precisely. Now, what level of what that aid would be, and whether it would be kinetic or not, would so I'm not a.
I love your terms, kinetic or not.
I'm not a paralegal. I'm not a legal. I'm not a politician. I don't know if that is in the Emergencies Act. I don't know. So, but I would assume within Op Lentis, I'm just gonna take a guess. If there isn't a mechanism for the military to use kinetic force domestically on its own soil, that would be ridiculous, right? Like in the case of invasion, it's just
correct.
What do you determine is an invader?
Right. You have to define the enemy, and the enemy has to be an enemy, domestic or foreign. But what it can't be a civilian, so they can't do civilian. So the POEC, we did get some information that the military or army was asked to assist, and it was declined under the rule that, well, first, there's no enemy here.
They were prepped. They were ready. They were.
I'm sure. Yeah, they were good.
They were 45 minutes away from downtown Ottawa. I had a phone call from a friend that's like, "Hey, man, just so you know, the beds have all been requested, the rations, everything. So just be careful." And I was like, "Okay, thanks, bro."
Good tip. So there was some sort of movement, not on downtown, but within 45-minute notice.
Yeah, they were mustering, and you'd be silly not to. Like, what if there was something? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, folks. Right? If you were an actual tactical planner, and you're, what if there's actually something bad? What if we were living in an alternate dimension, in an alternate universe, and something bad did happen, and we had mustered? That's political suicide as well, and that's treasonous as well, right? So,
right.
Yeah, that's why that whole thing, that whole scenario was unprecedented.
So, for sure. And I spoke to, I want to say it was King's Counsel, so somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to Senate and other stuff. And I was speaking to them about, well, technically, I thought the EA can't be invoked if there's another option, if there's some other law, statute, or ability to deal with the situation. And I was asking him, well, isn't the military like the second last option? Like, isn't the military somebody that we could have called in before we invoked the EA? And his response was actually no. The military is even considered as part of the options within domestic soil within Canada. It has to be an identified enemy, foreign or domestic, but it has to be an identified enemy. And they didn't reach that level with the convoy. They were occupiers, was a term they used a lot of, or unlawful. That was a term they used as well. but it wasn't reaching any level of enemy. Now, I don't know what the definitions are, and I
Well,
know
it's like
CCs have some, and
it falls into law enforcement has to say, we cannot do this, right? Like, so that's why they invoked the Emergencies Act, or so they claimed, was that law enforcement said, "Nah, we can't
correct.
do
They said
this."
they're out of resources; they couldn't have
Right,
it.
but you know, you saw the testimonies from OPP and RCMP and all these other jazz and CSIS, and they're like, "Yeah, this does not meet the threshold." But you know, in let's just say, if this was an actual threat, if we were invaded by aliens or whatever, or the Taliban or the Russians or whatever, if law enforcement can't handle it, then that's an actual time where you could justify, and you have a clear enemy with a clear intent, and so then, you know, that makes sense. But yeah, we were nowhere near that.
Correct, and that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like, even
Yeah.
the military's intelligence would have been telling them, no, these are just Canadians that are pissed off.
Yeah, man.
These are not what we would consider an enemy yet. They could turn into that, but their intelligence wasn't indicating that, and it didn't end up happening.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're actually right into the convoy, which is great. So where were you? So you had your discharge for good reasons, medical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about what your medical reason was? Did you sustain an injury, or is that something we can talk about?
Yeah. It's so I was diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety disorder due to a whole bunch of stuff that I had to go through when I was in Afghanistan, and a couple physical things as well. Like Chris Deering, I received the sacrifice medal, so I was involved in some explosive stuff, but I was not directly hit like Chris was. I was indirectly involved in that, and so yeah, so that's why I was released. Yeah.
Okay, so you had some physical stuff. You got the sacrifice medal, and that recognizes people who actually made a sacrifice, physical or otherwise, as part of their service.
Yeah. That sacrifice medal is, I think, only 1,000 have been issued, so it's quite a serious medal to receive. Chris has one. Jeremy McKenzie has it. Jeremy McKenzie and I have the same exact medals, actually, which is funny.
Well, actually, there's a Jeremy McKenzie question that came up that maybe you'll answer then. So
Shoot.
Island Jason asked, what did Jeremy McKenzie get released as, or did he retire? So do you know if he got a 5F, or do you know what he left with?
I don't know precisely, but I'm going to assume, my guess would be 3B. But Jeremy and I have never had that chat, so I would assume that he released in the same category as me.
Well, I saw Chet in the chat, and Chet knows Morgan, and Morgan knows Jeremy. So, Chet, I don't know if you want to get on text. Maybe you can ask that question. Was it a 3B or not 3B? That is the question. Maybe you can find that out for us there, Chet. This is a great thing about having a chat and having a whole bunch of people who knows a whole bunch of people. You can ask during a live video, and maybe you'll get that answer. So, Island Jason, what we'll do is we'll try our best to get that answer to you during this stream. But if not, we'll get back to you another time. Thanks for that question there, Jason. All right, so now you're medically discharged. You're on good terms with the vets. This happened in March 2020, kind of when COVID just kicked off. You just missed a bullet, pun intended. And now Convoy is not happening at this time, because Convoy comes later. So now you're getting on with life. You're getting back into society. Are you getting good rehabilitation for that, for your missed medical discharge? So your physical and otherwise, are you getting treatment for that?
It was like, a lot of it was online, so you can't do physio online. You can't, and you had to wear a mask, man. And for me, the mask was actually a huge thing. Like I did not. It reminded me of not to sound like a wuss or nothing, but it reminded me of getting cammed up and going on air raids, and so I don't like covering your face, man, and
Right.
so I was like, I don't like it. So I fought it as much as I could, and if I did wear one, I would wear a skull mask. I would wear something that would scare people to keep me away. So essentially, the services were pretty weak. It was either online only, or so I stopped going. My gym was closed. All the things that I was doing, school was only online. The whole purpose of me going back to school was to actually get back into society, was to actually be involved in the classroom. And so I was like, screw it. So I didn't even, I just dropped all of that. And Yeah, so fast forward, so it was a good, so the convoy was like if January 29th, 28th, right? But
Just about
prior
2
to
years
that,
after.
my wife and I had enough. We were living in the suburbs of Ottawa, and we're like, let's sell. And so we bought a property, between just outside of we're east of Bytown. So that's
Okay.
where we are. And so so I sold when the housing market was ridiculously high, and
You
so I
did
sold
that
for
too. Good
more.
job.
Yeah, I sold for more, bought more for less, and so did it the smart way. And then we were living a good life out here. And then, but I was like, somebody needs to be doing something. Something's got to happen here. This has been a year and a half of this, and then of course the scuttlebutt was that there is a convoy coming across the country, and I got on
Yep.
that app there. Jesus, what's the name of the app? It's like the CB radio app.
Telegram or something else.
No, it was Silo or someone in the chats. Tell me what it is, man. There was a
Yeah,
particular
they
app
probably get it.
where they were all chatting on there. So I downloaded that app, and then you can actually hear them all talking. And
Zello.
Zello, thank you. That's it.
See,
Yeah,
that's how
Zello.
fast these guys are.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I got on Zello, and then
Yeah.
so that's when I started tracking what was going on. So I was ready for their arrival. So because I'm not too far, it take me about. Anyways, I'm not too far to get to Ottawa, so I would be able to go down daily and come back daily and spend the whole day there, but still be able to sleep in my own bed at night.
So did you go every day? Did you go on
Mm-hmm.
the Friday as it came in?
Mm-hmm. Not the Fridays they came in. So that I was just kind of seeing what it was. Like, is this real? You know what I mean? And then but that next day I went, because that night, I guess that Friday, was when that lady was dancing on the tomb. That's what the video was. There was a video of a lady dancing on the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And the propaganda had already started that, people are pissing on it and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so when I did get there that Saturday, there were some trucks, actually, not semis, but like pickup trucks that were not on the steps, but just below on the sidewalk. So that did happen. But clearly there was some policing that was going on. So, and I mean, civilian policing. Like you should like put your bloody truck somewhere else. Like this is sacred ground. So when I got there that Saturday, there were other veterans already there as well that had seen the same things that I did. And they were, so my primary concern at that point was to go there to make sure nobody was going to mess with that place, because the summer prior to that was like the complete desecration and destruction of statues all across Western society in the summer of love for the BLM protests.
Like the real destruction of statues.
Oh yeah, like we're talking like defacing and destroying stuff. So, and when I remember when I saw that happening, I was like, if anyone tries to do that to the war monument, like I'll be there 100%. And so I had multiple reasons to be there, but that was the main reason why I went. I went to go and see what was going on, and when I got there, it was clean. It was clean. It was pristine. The trucks that I had seen from the overhead view were gone. That lady who did dance on it. I mean, I grew up in Ottawa, man. Canada Day, every day, somebody pisses or drinks or acts like a retard, acts like a fool in and around the parliamentary sector all the time. So I wasn't surprised. And but yeah, I got there and I was like, okay, cool. This is wild. There were so many people there. It was like Canada Day, but January 29th.
For sure, and for like 3 weeks almost. Now we saw lots of video of a gentleman who was taking care of the monument. He would be sweeping and clearing the snow, and he was wearing like a whole jumpsuit stuff. Like he became iconic as somebody who was caretaking around the monument. Did you meet that gentleman? Do you know his name?
Well, there's a couple dudes. I'm not sure which ones you're referring to, but there's one. His name is Pops. So I do know him. He's a member of Veterans for Freedom. Awesome cat, naval dude. I know he was there sweeping it every day, and so I met him there. But there were quite a few civilians as well. Well, no, Jake was also there, but Jake is not Pops.
Okay.
Jake and I are friends, so we'll get into the Jake story. But
okay,
yeah,
the chat loves this.
there were truckers. There were actual like civilians there that were sweeping. So I saw multiple people come up and sweep. I'm not sure who the first one was to do it. But yeah, Jake was there, and but I hadn't met Jake until so 29th. I met Jake probably like 5 days prior to taking down the fence. That's when I met Jake. Yeah.
Okay, well then my next question kind of led into that, the fence going up. So you went there, the trucks were not on the steps anymore. It was nice and clean. People were being very respectful.
Yep.
And then for the safety of everybody and for the safety of the monument, they decided to erect a big fence.
Yep.
Do you remember what day that was? And did it like happen overnight or did it happen during the day?
So when I got there, it was up. I believe it was during the night. So and it wasn't the federal government. It was it's the capital of Canada, right? So Public Works and the city and parliamentary district kind of work together. They have a multilateral collaboration with regards to the resources in Public Works. But the fence was put up when I got there, and it was so we took it down, I think on the 10th or the 11th. It was a Saturday. It was a Saturday at 1 o'clock. Trying to remember if I have a calendar in front of me, but the 18th is when they brought the jackboots down on us. So I think it was the weekend just before that, if that makes sense, or the one prior to that. In any case, one of those 2 weekends, Saturday. So yeah, it went up, and that's when I met Jake. So I saw that was there, and it was like, I was kind of blown away, man, because having been there every day, and the beauty about being able to go home every night was to see what they were saying on mainstream media, right? And so to be there physically all day, then to see what is going on Twitter and what is being said on CTV and Global and CBC, etc., was not surprising, but still equally mind blowing. So I was, so it was a shock to see the fence up, and they had stated that it was for the protection of the monument against the people that were there to prevent vandalism, etc. But the people that were there were policing themselves so well, and the police presence at that point was massive. At that point, they had brought in like their Durham Police, Toronto Police, OPP, RCMP, every municipality within 800 kilometers was there, and it was all, they were all very nice. They were all very nice. I got selfies taking. I took selfies with a lot of these law enforcement dudes. So yeah, to put that fence up was a complete disgrace, a complete dishonor. And then that's when I bumped into Jake on Wellington, and right by the shuttle area there, right there, there was a trucker named Mike who's passed away. So God rest your soul, rest in peace, brother. Mike with the yellow truck, if anybody was there, big white beard, awesome cat. And that's when I met Jake. And Jake says to me, "Hey man, we're taking down the fence. What do you think?" And I was like, "Let's do it." He's like, "Hey, Saturday, 1 o'clock." And I'm like, "Cool." I'm like, "You need tools?" He's like, "We got tools." I'm like, "All right, cool." So that was, and then we went and did that on the next Saturday.
Yeah, I remember the mainstream media's coverage about putting that fence up. They even went as far as saying they were protecting it because they didn't want people attacked by this crowd. So they were trying to envision that somebody was going to go attack that, and then you guys would like murder them or something. That's kind of the what they were trying to say. So they're really doing it for the life of somebody else.
Right.
But we know that's BS. Not only where there's no violence, that thing was taken care of, and nor would somebody have been successful at attacking it in a way, shape, or form. Yeah. I'm trying to envision what happened that overnight, because I'm sure there were truckers and other people around. But they roll up with some sort of flatbed with the fence, and they probably went like Lego quickly as they could to put it up. And I wonder if there was people around. So if anybody's watching this, if there's any video of anybody of the fence going up, I wouldn't mind checking that out. I'd like to kind of see how the attitude was. I'm sure they were frustrated, but they didn't block them. They didn't physically do anything. But they may have been jeering at them, saying, stop. I wouldn't mind if somebody has that video to share. We did get an answer to the Jeremy question. So Jeremy retired with his honor, according to him.
Yeah. So
that'll be a 3B.
That's enough. Nah, that means enough said. He's good. He's
got his honor. So
that exactly. Yeah. Category is not required.
No, we can ask Philip what his was. He might have got the 5F. Philip is a pain in the butt sometimes. But that's good. Okay. So thank you very much for bringing that. Kiki Boo. So I have a lot of fact checkers in my chat today. It's amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to Saturday at 1 p.m. So you guys said, all right, we're going to do this. Let's go. So did you get the order like the day before or a couple days before?
Oh, there's no order. It was
No, I just mean given the information at 1
well,
p.m.
that's important because we hadn't actually formed like Voltron yet at that point. This was like I didn't know what it was beyond my brother Jake telling me, "Hey man, be here at 1 o'clock. We're gonna do this." And I was like, "Okay, cool, let's do it." And then I got there, and there was a massive crowd.
The word got out.
Yeah, huge crowd, man. And so I'd say there are probably about like 40 veterans and maybe like a couple hundred people, a couple hundred civilians there. And I had met Jeremy a couple days prior as well. And so, we all met, we all spread the word, right? And so when I got there,
Mackenzie was part of this?
Yeah, he was there that day as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
he was live streaming it like right there when I was like, "Hey, wait, how you doing, man?" He's like, "You're on live." I was like, "Oh, cool." And that's when I met Chris Deering, as a matter of fact. So when I got there, Jake had already had the tools, man, and these fences are very easy to put together. So they're literally like Lego pieces with one bolt. And so I think it was like a 12 millimeter socket. We had like 4 of them, and we took them down very quickly. And that's when I met Chris Deering. When I grabbed my first piece of fence, he and I were facing each other on either side of the fence.
Wow.
And I was like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" He's like, "Good." Like, "How you feel?" He's like, "Great." And then so we took it down. We dismantled it quickly, efficiently, and then piled everything up very neatly on the south side of the past the tomb of the unknown soldier. Stacked the fences up very neatly. Put the bolts with the bolts, the nuts with the nuts, and so that Public Works could take it away neatly. And Chris explained it in the interview with yourself that it was I think it was Alpha 47 platoon of the Ottawa Police Services that came up. And then people were a little bit like, "Ooh, like what's going to happen here?" And it was our friend Brian Marr who went up to him and was like, "Hey man," the cop said, "Hey, did you do this?" And we're like, "Yeah, we did." And they were just about to walk away, and he was like, "Well, hold on a minute, like we'll make you a deal. Like we who took it down, we will stay here 24/7. We're not going anywhere anyways." And we'll make sure that it's maintained so that you keep face, you save face, we save face. Public order is maintained, and then there's no nobody, no harm, no foul. And they were like, "Cool." They shook his hand, and then they left, and that was that. But it was an unwritten thing.
So they negotiated a physical fence for a human fence, and that human fence did its job. I was even impressed how you guys stacked it up. It was ready to go. I bet you there wasn't a single nut or bolt missing because nobody wanted to be accused of stealing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was
I
to
can
prove a
imagine
point.
that. Yeah, exactly. Because not only are we not the type of people to cause damage, we place this politely for you, and it's ready to go.
Absolutely.
I would have
very
asked
Canadian.
somebody. Yeah, I would ask somebody to come smelt some of this and make dog tags out of it so that we had dog tags made from the fence. But I think your approach was better. I think it was probably better. It didn't escalate the situation anymore.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. Like we sang "Oh Canada," and we said a couple prayers, and there was a lot of media there. And that is when Mr. Jake Spinney became infamous for his CBC rant.
Right, that came up in the chat. yeah, where he's talking to them. A couple people remember that one vividly.
And Jake is a very private person, so that was that means he meant it. He did not.
Wasn't he from like the East Coast? Wasn't he? Didn't he drive?
He's from Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that is who I'm referring to then as Jake. Then.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind getting him on at some point. So if you guys know him or have a contact to him, have him reach out to me, Twitter, email, whatever, and we'll talk to him. And we got some more information. According to Island Jason, Philip was the first 7 Foxtrots in Canadian history.
Yep, I believe it.
Yeah. There we go, Jason. Thanks for relaying that information. All right, so now we have the fence down.
Yep.
"Oh Canada" has been sung, and you have your human fence in place now, which allows people to enjoy the monument and protect it. Now, this was, you said, I think the 12th is or the 10th.
It was like I said, it was a Saturday. I believe it was the Saturday before the Gestapo showed up there to smash everyone. Let me pull up my calendar, man.
I'm actually on it too because I want to see what they were at. So 22nd February.
It was
Saturday
the 11th.
Was the 12th.
Yeah,
11th is
so
a Friday.
right. So the 18th was a Thursday when they came and smashed
Yeah,
everyone, if I believe.
Friday.
So Friday, yeah,
Right,
Friday.
right, right. Yeah, 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday's when they spooled up, and then Friday morning it happened.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was not that. It was the Saturday before that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that would be the 12th. So 2 days before the EA was dropped. So
So 12th, it would have been the one before that. There, sorry, my
before
math.
that, so the 5th then.
Yeah, that's it. That was the one.
Okay, so the
That
5th.
was the
So
one
Saturday
because
the
we
5th is
stood
dead.
guard on it for quite a long time.
Gotcha.
It was
So the
more than a
whole
week. It
week
was like 2
before the
weeks. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And a single egg, a single pea, a single anything?
No, God, no. Well, not especially when we were there. So that day was essentially the creation of Veterans for Freedom.
Gotcha.
That's essentially when it started. So all of those cats that were there that volunteered for, we created a roster, we created a signal chat, and then we had shifts, and it was always in two or three two, like fire team partners, right? So two or three every hour on the hour. Some people would do 4 hours, some people would do 6, whatever. So you actually put up what it is that you were willing to do, and then that was the covenant that was created.
Yeah, and Chet is kind of reporting because we like to get the truth right. The worst I saw on the monument was a spilled coffee. And that could have been a Tim's coffee by accident.
Yeah,
Probably
totally,
not
right?
even thrown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like even myself, like I would do 4 or 5 hour shifts. Mine were typically 7 in the morning till about noon. And mind you, it's cold, but yeah,
Mhm.
we're picking up cigarette butts. And people were. I just want to say people were super respectful. So it's not like we had a lot of work to do.
Right.
And we had all the tools that we need. We salted, we cleared the ice. We even had an amazing lady. This Haitian lady came and donated an Arctic tent to us.
Mhm.
With heaters and stuff for us to be able to sleep and stay there and keep warm. And the police tried to take that away as well. And that's what myself and Brian Meyer, again, we had to go up to them and say, no, you're not taking that. Not happening. And there were like 9 or 10 cops, and it was quite the thing. They're like, no, you can't have this here. And I was like, dude, 6 months prior to this, you had Extinction Rebellion had like a tent village here, like all over the war monument, man. Check it out on Rebel News. Like it was there for forever. And
Yeah.
we're like, this is a tent for us, and we have people here with metal femurs and PTSD and shrapnel in their torsos, man. Not happening. So, and then they were like, all right, and then they just left.
So it sounds like it was more public relations than it was security for
Big
you
time.
guys when you're there. You're
Yep.
dealing with the public, showing the good face of veterans
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
everything.
So well, we weren't just there for security. So if you were there on a Saturday when it was always packed, like families and kids would come up, and like it was fascinating to see how many people didn't even know the history of what that monument was or what the tomb of the unknown soldier was. So a lot of us ended up becoming like a liaison, precisely that. I became myself a de facto liaison between the police and the veterans that were there, and then
Right.
explaining to people what this monument was and why it is that we were doing what we were doing. It was pretty cool, man. It was a historical thing.
I'm proud of that, and I'm proud that you can share that story and that actually happened. So that's pretty cool. You won't see that on CBC, and we should.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that we should have commercials about. Like if we were really proud of what we did as a country, because we should be, we would
Yeah.
have those heritage commercials. Remember those? We
Yeah.
would just celebrate little pieces of history. This should be one. Maybe one day it will, but it won't be under the current media. Okay, so now we're actually having a great time. Oh, Canada, you guys are doing it. You have this lady come up. You have the police come up. It's kind of be a little ridiculous, but overall, nobody's getting violent and nobody's trying to put the fence back up. EA is dropped, or you start getting the rumors about the EA. I'm sure you're like a lot of people on the ground. You started hearing maybe the 12th and the 13th that they were considering it, or there's rumors about it. Did you think they would go all the way that far with it? Or did you think as soon as you heard that, because of your PSYOP experience and your other stuff, you're like, well, of course, that's just the next puzzle piece here. What was your take?
I was hoping they would.
They would?
Yeah, I was like, please, like go full send. This is an optics war. So,
Right.
and you're losing with all of your media industrial complex, with all the smears and all the attempts to slander and smear this this protest was they couldn't win. They were unsuccessful at it. So propaganda wise, I was like, this is the thing that you need to do. We need to have them come and smash some people and show their might.
Right.
So yeah, I heard that that's what they were doing, and I was also back and forth between Coventry. Coventry was like the main kind of depot, which is like not too far from downtown on Vanier Parkway, and that's where there were a lot of resources that were pooled together and stuff like that. The Ottawa Police Tactical Unit went in there and stole all their diesel. That's when they were stealing like wood and stealing their resources and stuff. But they started with their show of force then. Like they had snipers on the roof, you know, and I'm like, I know, like that's not a camera. That's a 338 Lapua. But so I knew that was going to happen, and I saw the kind of escalation of posturing that was happening.
Okay.
And of course, I knew that the LRAS was going to be coming in. There's only 2 of them in Kingston, so that's the long range acoustic systems for use for crowd control. You could make people vomit or destroy their ears. There are 2 of those that were coming out of Kingston, so I knew it was going to come. So I was just hoping that it came, but I hoped obviously that nobody would get hurt.
Right.
I knew they wouldn't go that far, you know, but it was crazy to see the level of how they were armed, what their posture was, what their tactical posture was. You know, never in a million years did I think that I would see C8s with 30 round mags, like ERT tactical dudes, like ready to go. But that's counterinsurgency. So we can get into that if you want. You guys kind of touched about it, I think, on one of your podcasts there, but
maybe with Chris.
Yeah, one of the counterinsurgency doctrine is that if you're going to get a police force to become pipe hitters, they can't be local. You have to bring in an outside police force in order for them to pipe hit that population. That area of responsibility cannot be local. You use that for police liaison, you use that for general peacekeeping, but as soon as the pipe hitters need to be put, you push everyone to the back, and then you bring in another force.
That's what Maggie said.
Yeah, and that she's absolutely correct. That's why so people, I know a lot of folks say like those dudes in the green suits were UN. I'm like, no, they were Sûreté du Québec. So
you're not the first to say that either. I've heard that a lot.
And let's be honest, Val d'Or is just as far as Mogadishu for a lot of people, you know. So the point is they're not from Ottawa, and they'll just do their job, and they'll do it just fine.
Yep, and they don't care about what you're saying to them because they probably don't even understand you anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that could be why Maggie, she saw the police, and then they switched them out, and then those ones did the damage. So yeah, you're explaining it right there.
And they'd have multiple pools. They have 4 or 5. Like it's like hockey, you know, like you have different lines.
Change the line, send in line 3, line 4. Penalty killers now, get them in there to bash some people. All right, well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because you have that kind of experience and you could have saw what was going on. Now, one thing that Chris mentioned is he knew he was going to go take a beating. So he knew when he was going there that he's going to get a beating, and he went for that purpose because he believed not only was it going to happen, but it kind of had to happen, kind of like what you're saying here for the optics and the rest of it. So you kind of felt, you saw the force starting to build up, you saw the snipers, you saw them showing more force, so you knew. And then the Kingston stuff is coming, those long range acoustic things are coming. Did you guys get a tip on that? Like, how did you know they were coming?
I know a lot of folk.
Right. So within your own network, like, all right, we fueled it up, and we
Patriots still exist. We believe it or not, in every institution, they're good people.
That's wonderful to hear that. Okay, good. So you guys had a bit of a heads up, and you know, okay, it's starting to come down. Now, did you guys to retreat, or how did let's get to the war monument where you guys were hanging out.
Yeah.
Did they come and clear that out first, or it was just part of this movement? Like, how did you guys end up leaving the war monument?
Well, so that Thursday night was is when I started the police liaison had done their final kind of poster campaign. They do these poster campaigns quite a bit, where they give tell the truckers, you know, anyone who had a truck on Wellington or any of the other adjacent roads to move, or else, right? It was like kind of the final one. And I'm not sure what was being said personally, but there was that one truck, safe load or whatever. I forget the dude's name, man. German cat, awesome guy, right in front of Château Laurier. He was there forever. Kevin, is that?
I'll ask the chat if they know.
Anyways, awesome dude, German guy, shaved head, mustache. He was there, parked right in front of Chateau Laurier, load safe. He was fired from that company pretty much halfway through. In any case, that Thursday I saw him leave, and that's when I was like, okay, what did they tell him? So he was like one of the first ones. He's like, I'm not leaving, and he was like,
right.
And he just, I'm standing on a memorial, and he was pulling pen. I was like, okay. So something is going to happen. But like I said, I went home every night. My shifts were day shifts, so I went home that night. And then that next morning, I had a doctor's appointment actually, and so I saw what was going on. So if you want to talk to people about, because I wasn't personally there, I knew that Eric. Thank you, Charlie. See, it was Eric. Yeah. Awesome dude.
This is a great crowd.
Yeah, awesome crowd. So on that Friday, I basically watched and I wanted to see what was going on, but I knew that there was no way these people are going to be above board. Like there's going to be they want something awful to happen.
Yeah.
And most of the cats, and God bless them, man, they don't live in this area, right? And so a lot of dudes were actually trespassed from like the NCR completely. Still to this day, they're not allowed to even step foot in that city. And this is my hometown. I was born and raised there. I lived there most of my life, except for when I was in the military. And I was like, so I had a choice to make. I was like, look, do I go and be a symbol as well, and get my face kicked in and get arrested and potentially be trespassed from Mordor, ground zero of where this fight needs to continue to be. And so because I knew that this was just phase 2 of an operation of perhaps dozens of phases, I did not allow myself to be arrested. So I didn't partake on the front line for that particular reason. And I'm glad I did, because it allowed me to actually continue to but V4F had just stood by. So then we had Rolling Thunder, and then I got to get involved with James Topp in Canada Marches. And so that was one of my kind of strategic reasons why I didn't allow myself to be on that front line on that particular day. Okay, so, but Jake and Tom Murphy, my brother Tom Murphy, man, they were there right up. So I can tell you from their mouths, they stayed on the tomb right up until the last moment. And the cops, there's actually a picture of Tom with his hands behind his back, and it looks like he's being arrested, but he's not. The cops are like whispering in his ear, saying, "Just please get out of here, man. Like just get out of here, dude. Like we don't want any more of this. The optics are bad. So you can beat up Chris by Wellington Street. You can stick the point of your barrel into somebody's head behind a school bus, but arresting someone on the monument is the optics that they did not want. So those guys stayed there right until that absolute moment, and even they didn't allow themselves to get arrested. They were there for the optics, and they knew why that was important to be there. So yeah, eventually everyone was pushed off, and it all got shoved into basically like Bank Street, Elgin kind of area. But that whole thing where they hit the Madame Lavoie with the flashbang from the 40 millimeter grenade launcher, and they were throwing flashbangs, and they were going after it, man. It was crazy to see.
Yeah. Crazy. So what I was wondering was, did somebody dig their fingernails in and had to be dragged off, or was it more calm and more understanding and last minute we have to move now?
Well, I think a lot of folks understood that this now they're acting immorally, right?
They crossed the line. So
they've been pushing for a terrorism, that meme, right, with the stick, do a terrorism, please, and no one did. So now it's like, this is the I subscribe to the philosophy of ahimsa and nonviolent struggle, and I think a lot of people whether they knew they were doing that consciously or subconsciously, that's what was going on. You need to allow them to show their hands, to beat you publicly, so that the perception can be what it is. And because of that, is a great success. It was a great success internationally.
100%. And I think that was the biggest takeaway. Like at the very beginning, I was concerned about an ambulance being blocked or a black eye being made or a broken nose happening. None of that happened.
Yep.
So, and I think that was a major victory for us, especially on the PSYOPs level, because you're
A big
right.
time.
Yeah, and this is another tactic that is used all over the place. So protesters with counter protesters, you let the counter protester go too far, and then they can no longer become a protester. But you don't do it yourself. All right. So you had a doctor's appointment and you weren't there, but you were checking in with your team or the people, and you knew what was going on.
Well, I
Did
was
you
ready
go
to
back?
go. Like I had my medals on, and I was actually at a psychologist's appointment. I have an amazing doctor, and he's like, "Oh, I see where you're going today," and I was ready to go, man. But then we,
Like the
you know,
second wave, almost you were prepared for.
dude, I was going, but then after that, we had a good talk, and I'm glad I didn't, because here's what happened: is that a lot of guys who were leaving, they were leaving. They didn't want to get their faces kicked in.
Hmm.
So there were some dudes that were like, "Hey, well, where do I go now?" So I opened up my house to a lot of the truckers. So they were, so some guys came down here and were able to kind of do a battle damage assessment about what it is that happened. So that was the kind of saving grace about that as well. I was like, where am I best situated? How can I do the most good? And
Hmm.
going down there and getting smashed in the face was not didn't make sense to me. So that's why I chose not to.
No, for sure. And sometimes you don't even want to give the enemy the satisfaction as well. And just like your military training, everybody has a role, and roles are important to fulfill as well.
Yeah,
And
and
you had your
also
role.
I like if I had seen Chris being beat up, I'd probably be in prison for a long time. So I have to know what I can handle, and that's not something I would have been able to handle.
Well, that sounds like some maturity there and some discipline that's been put into you that you used at that point.
Mm.
Because yeah, you're not wrong. What would you have accomplished? You would have injured another person, possibly two. You might have taken down 10, and then you would have been locked away for a long time. And you would have had something like what we saw with Jeremy McKenzie or the Coos guys, because they come down really, 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 really hard. So I think you made the right choice there. So you never did go back at any point because it was now over. So
Well,
this is like
so actually no, I was back there pretty much every day for the next like couple months. There were still
okay.
protests going on, so that was another reason, is that a lot of people never left, and there were continuous protests that were going on. So I wanted to make sure that I can keep my presence in that city and I can continue the fight. So yeah, I would go down there continuously. There were many protests, and like I said, this was the beginning of V4F. So myself and my friend Saxon Murray, who's another fellow engineer who I met down there, we were able to start spreading the word about Veterans for Freedom, and then start collaborating with all these other entities that were
Right.
opposed to all of this. And so the networking was, from a strategic standpoint, it was way more valuable to continue to do that. And so that's what I continue to do right up until today.
Awesome. So that was where I'm going to segue next to, is the Veteran for Freedom. But before I get there, Charlie C made a comment I want to ask you about. Charlie, who's a vet as well,
Mhm.
she says, I will not enter another Legion due to the disrespect of James Topp. And we have Leaf Nurse says, Charlie, 100%, I refuse to support any Legion anywhere. I had a lot of people not wearing the poppy, a lot of people wearing an old poppy, but not buying a new one. A lot of people doing that. Yeah, there you go. Like, you keep the original one. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess you were on the same wavelength. So the Legion let you down?
Well, yes, 100%. Yeah, they let us all down many times. Like, okay, so even during that point, so right after, like, there's so much psychological stuff still going on. Right after that convoy, I obviously, because I'm out of the military, I'd made my voice quite loud on social media. Every year there's an annual Royal Engineer dinner. Like, I was disinvited from this dinner, specifically, like formally.
Right.
You are not to attend this dinner, and the invite of the dinner is all honorable serving and currently serving and previously serving members, veterans and all, and I'm a decorated combat veteran, and I was disinvited because of my political views on this topic. So that was not just Legion, but that was like CAF as a whole. That was all of our federal institutions as a whole.
Wow.
So that right there is like, that's why Veterans for Freedom started, was to create an alternate space from the Legion. Because clearly now you have to be basically part of a political view in order to be considered a respected veteran or not. So I was called traitor, redcoat, turncoat, you name it, to my face down there. Not by many people, but by a couple, right? So and of course, to answer Charlie's disdain, to respond to Charlie's disdain, yes, they would not even entertain James as he traveled across the country. So yeah, the Legion is a dying organization. Most of the people who are a part of the Legion are not even veterans. So yeah, it's actually, it's a good thing. Like, right, all of these things, these growing pains, these evolutions, they springboard, they evolve into something else.
Right.
And that's where we're at. We're a young country, we really are.
Do you think there'll be Veteran for Freedom? It will replace the Legion? Is that?
Well, I don't know what
mission,
it will be.
or
I don't know, but people are creating alternate economies, alternate cultural spaces, alternate podcasts. All of this stuff has stemmed from that. I think it was all happening before, but that was really the catalyst that woke a lot of people up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious to see. I have some faith that because these are tumultuous times, but I have some faith that through the end of the wormhole, there's some hope there.
Well, maybe some rebuilding at some point, and it might be
Mhm.
veteran-based rebuilding. May not be political-based rebuilding, because those guys screw things up a lot. Okay, cool. So Veterans for Freedom, and now it's still going, and this is something that you're involved with a lot. Do you want to tell us a bit more about it? How can people help get involved, maybe support it?
Yeah. So it stemmed from that. A whole bunch of people came together. It's from all over the country. So it's Victoria to Newfoundland. There are probably over 1,000 members now. But its goal now, the website 2.0, I think, is going to be coming out very soon. But essentially, it's localism defeats globalism. So they're encouraging people to build communities, to homestead, to barter, all of these things. And so
Parallel economy.
Yes, right. Exactly. And just shaking your fist at the moon or pointing at the enemy and getting angry is it served its purpose at that point. But now it's like, well, what are you doing to level up? How are you making yourself better? How are you improving the life of your community, of your family? It's that real basic, simple saying, like, sort yourself out before you go and criticize your neighbor. Clean up your room, as some people like to say. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Well, in the U.S., there's a lot of veterans that go into political life. So you see a lot of politicians start off from the military side of things. Not so much here in Canada. There's a couple, but not so much in Canada. It doesn't seem to be as patriotic as it is in the States. Like, it's every second or third politician down there has some military background, but not so much in Canada. Is it time to change that? Because should we have less political people that grew up all their life doing that, and more people who serve to get into political life? And if so, could Veterans for Freedom maybe establish a few candidates that might actually be good for an election coming up?
It's a good question. I'll start with the original part of it, which is like your observation that patriotism in Canada is not as vibrant as it is in the U.S., and there's a reason for that. They had their revolution. 1776 was created by dissenters, actual dissidents, weed growers, gun owners, and people that were like, no more tyranny. And they did it over much less reasons than what is going on right now today. So Canada has never had, right? We've never, the Tea Party, exactly, right? Like, just a little bit of tax on tea. Look at what's going on now. My God, are we ever tolerant? And we are the redcoats that lost. And so Canada is the younger brother, the younger cousin of the United States that never had their moment. They never had their physical separation through we've had enough. Like, that has just never happened. And that's why we are historically very compliant and very nice. So it's that culture is what needs to change. in
Right.
order for actual change to happen. You can't change. I hear you on the political thing, and it's also necessary, but you can't change culture through votes. You need to change culture to vote. You need other people to actually be a part of that system. And I think a lot of people, myself included, are quite jaded with that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see Veteran for Freedom going that route, but some people have. You know, Tom Marazzo himself, he tried to run for the Ontario party. So you know, if you want to do that, fill your boots. I think that's a great thing, and people should get behind those people. You know, for example, Chris Guy, whether you like the guy or not, it's the fact that he's throwing a frag grenade into the swamp. Like you oftentimes you can't change the psychosis of a population, but you can disrupt it by making people think. So I think we're still at that phase now where we need to change the culture. And
Okay.
who knows what 20 years looks like, right? It could be a utopia. I don't know. Good question.
So you kind of want to be more of a cultural influence than a political influence. That's kind of where you're headed with
Well,
this.
I
It
can't
may
speak.
have some political.
The organization is quite decentralized, you know, so I can't speak for the organization on a whole,
Okay.
but I do know that its main goal is to get people to start to live locally, to create locally, to sell locally, to barter locally, and if you are to do politics, start locally. You know, start at your school board, start at your towns, all of this stuff, and that spreads out.
That's kind of cool, and I like that. And they probably would be for independent people, so independent candidates and stuff that work that way, because that's what we're all about. We really want to work with our constituents, not Ottawa. We really want to focus local, not global. So that might be the kind of mindset that they would be attracted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and to encourage other people to do that same thing. You know, you'll see a lot of vets that'll be like, well, you know, I've already done enough, and so therefore I'm done.
Sure, and they're probably right. Like they gave enough.
But I mean, you know, life doesn't end there. You know, so what?
Well, maybe they just need a mission. Maybe some of these people just need a mission.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. And if there was a valid mission for them to sign up to,
exactly,
maybe we can get some movement
and
on
each
that.
mission leads into the next one, right? So if your mission is to get fit or get healthy or to start learning how to grow crops or whatever it is, get after that, right? And then just success breeds success. So that's
it inspires another generation too.
100%.
That's going to lead into my next part here. Save Canada, Josh Alexander and team. So here's a group of people who even went as far as redoing, I think, the last 30 kilometers or so of James Top's march. So they redid it. So look at that. I highly think that the inspiration that you guys gave helped encourage people like that to go ahead and step up as well. So how does that feel, knowing that you guys, you went and did your thing, saved the monument, James did his march, and that inspired yet another generation to go ahead and stand up as well, come back a couple of years later and start to redo that march. What does that fill you with when you see that as a vet?
Oh, hope.
Especially after seeing what went to happen to us with the boots and stuff. You see this happen.
Yeah. No, absolute hope. Josh and Monty and Nicholas and those cats and their whole crew, man. They're inspiring. And they remind me of me when I was younger. So I dig it, man. And I know. So I only know Josh through his dad. So Matt Alexander is also a member of Veterans for Freedom. So I met Matt first, and I didn't even know who Josh was. I didn't know of the trials and tribulations he was going through because I was busy, you know, on my end of the spectrum. Josh and Save Canada kids. So I met them, I guess, the first time one particular time on the Hill this last spring. And I was loving what they were doing. And so it's interesting, right? Like how these sides are so divided, and you can see it. You can see where the teams have split, right? Like at first it was like mask, no mask, and then mandate, no mandate, and then vaccine, no vaccine. and then it shifted immediately to war on Ukraine, like right away. And then all those people went to Ukraine, and then their criticism of some of the people on this side, like, well, you went straight to attacking trans kids, and it's the next thing, and there's so many other things, right? That's why psyops are multiple layers. It's a rainbow of a sorbet of
rainbow of all the
colors and layers. So
a collage.
But long story short, yeah, Josh and that crew, man, they give me hope, they give me motivation, so I support them wholly in their tasks and mission.
There's something different about Josh, though. He's 17 physically, but there's something different about him. He's like 50 mentally. This guy is a wise young man. You saw that too.
Oh yeah, my friend, I'm friends with Rupa Sumaranya. You guys check out Rupa, she's dope there. And we were chatting, and she was like, "What did she say? He's just frustratingly mature." And it's true, and he is. So I interviewed him as well, and to sit down and have an hour and a half conversation with a 17-year-old. I don't know if I would have been able to do that at the age of 17. So it's absolutely amazing. But he's got good parents, comes from good upbringing, right? So tell. That's huge, and that's also comes back to, like, take care of your house first before you try and save the world. So you make sure that you are good and you are squared away, get your stuff in order, then you can go out and change the world, or you can do them concurrently. But as long as you are aware of your own flaws before you start to dictate what flaws exist in others, I think that's what has led us to where we are now. Is everyone's just pointing everyone's problems out, but no one's sorting out themselves. So the fact that these kids are standing up for a very simple thing, Billboard Chris, I was there, so I was. Josh asked me to be security for him on June 9th. At the event here in Ottawa on Broadview and Nepean, and so I did, and so myself and others, Luke, shout out to Luke, was our paramedic there, and so I do that without in a heartbeat. I'll be there to support those kids and make sure that they don't get hurt and that they can get their voices heard.
Yeah, and we need that generation to keep doing exactly that. It's the one before them that kind of dropped the ball, but this generation that Josh is part of, and there's other people like Lee Vaughn in Manitoba. There's a lot of students out there who are kicking some butt, man.
Yeah, man. Students Against Mandates there, and all those, like, just amazing.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. She's been on twice now, so we got to do her last year and then do a year update, and she is rocking it. It's hard to get her on because she's super busy, but once you get her, she's amazing. So I'm filled with the same type of optimism as well. I wouldn't say rainbow, I would say collage, but but I definitely like seeing that. And so you were there on June 9th. So I remember the tweet went out about Antifa or something like that, publicly said that they're going to make problems. So there was a request to, hey, let's make a ring of safety around these people. So did it actually transpire? Was those threats materialized, or was it just a lot of hot air to try and intimidate people?
Well, there were more threats. There were like knife threats and needle threats. There was quite a bit of like physical actual
needle threats. So they're going to vaccine you?
Like HIV and opioid injection stuff. Some serious stuff. So level 1 body armor was required for certain people. But thankfully nothing transpired that way. But yes, they tried to create a barricade of humans to stop people from going through, and they were quite rugby-ish in doing it. So Chris was on the other end of the street, and we were on the south side, and Chris was on the north side, maybe a kilometer away. So we had to create a distractionary, a diversion, so to speak. We just got two of the Save Canada boys, Nick and Monty, stayed with the flag because everyone just focuses on the flag, and they're like, "Oh, there he is!" because there's a flag. It's a massive crowd, and the rest of us just ran around and bypassed that actual.
You flanked them.
Yeah, we flanked them and just ran 3 blocks, and then ended up behind them and then disrupted the entire line. And then ultimately they failed because they surrounded us where we wanted to be, and we were just having an awesome kind of block party conversation style when they were sitting on the outside. But they were quite aggressive. Yeah, absolutely. But that's fine. I expect that. There's a
Sure.
psychosis going on there. It's quite. You see them on Twitter, right? You've probably saw all the footage, but like to actually physically see it in people's faces, you're like, man, these are some hurt folks, man. Like I have empathy for them. I know a lot of people will say, "What the heck?" But empathy, not sympathy.
Sure, right. You wish they weren't doing that, but you don't understand completely why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question kind of was going into that. Do you think they are a grassroots organization that just have a protest of their own, or
No,
is it
God, no,
more than that?
no. These are Borg automaton, state-funded ideologues, man. And so there's not a critical. There wasn't a critical. It was like
paid mercenaries almost.
Dude, like they all had shark eyes, man. You ever seen a great white shark's black? Like it's just black eyes, like they're just saying this mantra over and over and over again, and it's yeah, it was a trip, dude. So yeah, I mean there are individuals within groups, but this is a perfect definition of group think, big time.
Yeah, and I just wanted to highlight something quickly here for Chet.
Shoot.
Hey, Chet. Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. Needle threats are no joke. I didn't know what they were. That's why that Vax joke came out. But now that I know what they are, oh my gosh, I can't believe that exists. But I can understand.
Yeah, we had EpiPen. Like we had all of the needles required for either HIV or opioid overdose. We were all rocking that stuff. So, but yeah, it was no joke. The cops were aware of it as well, and the police liaison were actually excellent. And because of my work with the police liaison the prior year, I also have a lot of friends in the OPS. I was able to the communication with the Ottawa police liaison was awesome. They're quite good, actually.
Maybe they learned their lesson after the convoy because they liaison better now, OPS.
But the liaison during the convoy was actually quite good as well.
The OPP ones I understand were really good, but the OPS ones.
My interaction with OPS liaison was excellent.
Good.
Yeah.
I guess other than the Coventry issue, because it was the OPS liaisons that kind of lied, and then they came in and took the fuel. So there was a little kerfuffle around that part.
Yeah. Because that's deals made in the darkness are never meant to see the light. So
gotcha.
If you liaison at 11 o'clock at night in a location where no one's around, expect shady things to happen. Gotcha. Police liaison is meant to happen at noon when the showdown's going on and everyone can see. That's when they can't lie.
Yeah, because that was one thing I took out of the POEC was the OPP complained about the OPS liaisons around Coventry and not really liaisoning anymore, just more threatening and doing other things. But that was Coventry's. But you were mainly dealing with one over at the monument.
Correct. Yeah. I had zero interaction with the police other than seeing what they had done at Coventry. Yeah, no direct interaction. As a matter of fact, when I was at Coventry, he was a gentleman was like, if you're going to get arrested, dude, don't do it here. We're in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to see it. You know, if you're going to get arrested with your medals and your beret, please do it downtown. I was like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Okay, cool.
Good point.
Peace.
PSYOP, they know.
Yeah, man. This is all optics war. That specifically was, right? And everything going forward is an optics war. I want people to understand that. So it's like how you conduct yourself and by leveling up and being amazing, strong, patriotic people. This is the way. This is the way. Don't be afraid because everything's a lie and everyone's trying to manipulate and influence people into not doing what is right. You know what's right, do it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this is June 9th, and you protected Chris Billboard and you protected Josh and the team. Nothing really went down, but there were some threats. And now what are you doing with your time? So I reached out to you, had your interview scheduled, but what's the rest of your summer looking like? And what are you going to keep you busy doing?
Yeah, well, so the last 6 months, Patriot Propaganda has been amazing. Y'all check it out, patriotpropaganda.com if you like, and check us out on YouTube. But we are going to be taking a bit of a break, so an administrative kind of pause. And the reason is, we've been just going at this nonstop, right? From the convoy to V4F to Canada marches, and to this. So I haven't even all last summer I was gone. So I haven't even, and I just moved it into this property. It's been it'll be 2 years this August. So, I'm taking the time to get this ranch kind of going. So I got a maple syrup production that I'm going to get heavily spooled up for next spring. I do it, I've done it 2 years on my own here. small batch, but I've got some concrete pads being poured, and I'm going to build an actual sugar shack and get the evaporators and do all
Oh,
that.
cool.
Yeah, man. And setting up an orchard here, so pear trees and apple trees, and yeah, I live in a really resource rich area. So I've got cattle ranchers and stuff that have already negotiated with me to barter maple syrup for beef, etc. So once again, that localism defeats globalism kind of thing, and trying to build a community where we don't have to rely on debit cards or digital currency or any of this jazz, where we can just
a
live.
handshake and barter and nowhere to go.
Yeah, I think that is like, and that's the way it should be. And if I could live like that in my lifetime, man, something's going right.
Absolutely, and I concur. You should take that time and establish that. It's going to give you that sense of accomplishment, and you also have that ready to go. Your dentist may not be happy because you got apples, pears, and sugar, but you'll be ready to go. You'll have energy.
Yeah, and and living out, like I have a pretty large acreage, and it's there's never any shortage of things to do. So I'm prepping wood for 2 years from now. It's nonstop.
I have the same problem. We're homesteading, so we got to get ready for winter wood. Like that has to be something on our agenda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I enjoy that stuff, right? And that was one of the reasons why I want, other than the mandate stuff, is that this is what I always wanted. I went to war, I did my stuff, and I want to just kind of live in peace, man, and connect with nature. And that is the most healthy thing that anyone can do, in my opinion.
Now, Patriot Propaganda is itself going to go on hiatus, or are they going to have someone else doing interviews, or what's going on with the channel?
So yeah, we're not at that. I think the interviews are just going to take a break for a while. I mean, I myself, I'm going to continue to do podcasts and interviews and kind of collaborating with various people. I might continue to do my own Alexander Speaks kind of segment where I just talk about a particular topic out in the woods and while I'm building something or doing something. But in the background for now, it's still going to continue because we have a merch shop, and we have finances going on. We got a website being built. There's a lot of things that are happening. So we have a great team of people that are going to continue to do that stuff. So the backdoor stuff and the background stuff is going to continue to happen. And we'll see what happens in the fall. But everybody needs a HLTA. You need a break. You need a break from the battle damage, man, and just to kind of see what's going on and see where you're at.
Well, I'll take the shift for now, and let me know when you're back, and then maybe I'll have to hand off to you for a bit and take a bit of a break as well.
Amazing.
Because we need to keep these voices going.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah, and if your Rolodex is a little bit bored right now, send it my way, and I'll keep some people busy over the summer.
Sounds good, man.
Cool. Yeah, we'll keep those conversations going. So you're going to come back. You take a break for the summer. You come back maybe in the fall. Now, what is your plan? You're still kind of materializing there, coming back big, or?
Well, so the goal of Patriot Propaganda is to mobilize art activism, in a sense. So yes. to see, the thing is, it's interesting, right? In this culture war, this is kind of a space that we decided that doesn't exist, and whether it's achievable or not, I still don't know. But the left seems to have the monopoly on a lot of stuff. Okay, so immigration, art specifically, Hollywood, painters, musicians, you name it, right? If you're a musician and you come out with the wrong think or the wrong view, you're immediately a piece of crap. So I know that there are talented artists out there. And when I say artists, even people will automatically think like Banksy or like any of these kind of left-leaning street guerrilla style stuff. And that's not the case. What we're trying to do is inspire people who are just simply creative. Right. Whether you're a blacksmith, if you are a master at animal husbandry, that you have a skill set that nobody understands, this not only is a science, it is an art. So if you can, I have many friends who are blacksmiths, so just to inspire creativity and to remove the kind of the left monopoly on creativity, and to give kind of wall space for this talent, so to speak. And I think that would be valuable. So to create a publishing house, for example, of authors or artists where they can sell their stuff on our website, So this is what we're trying to do. But there's not only that, there's the guerrilla aspect as well, where you have poster campaigns, sticker campaigns, getting out onto the street, the actual guerrilla style art activism, which works very well. For your listeners, I encourage you all to look at Gene Sharp's 149 steps or versions of nonviolent struggle. The guy, he runs the he's passed away now, but he created the Albert Einstein Institute, which is responsible for destroying or dismantling many totalitarian regimes. And the lady who runs it now is an Afghan woman who survived the war. In any case, it's comes from that ahimsa, right? And so so that's what we're kind of trying to promote and propagate, that message is that you can be creative and you can be different politically in order to be to exist and to be successful. Alternate spaces.
The first person that comes to mind is Greg Arcade. I believe you interviewed him and you've had him on. Yeah. So we have him at the end of the week, but
Greg and I are friends. Yeah, he's an awesome guy, man. Talented as heck. He plays like I think 29 different instruments. The guy's a one-man band, and he's an entrepreneur, and he's got this amazing. He's tuned in. To quote himself, he's what does he call himself? He's autistically smart.
Oh, cool. I'm going to touch on that with him because I might be on that spectrum too. And he seems like a really nice guy. Now, Patriot Propaganda, what I was just going to throw out there, because you guys are still trying to figure out what's going on. I've had a few people reach out to me, and I've had other podcasters reach out to me. We need a network. We need a network. So people like me can put my show somewhere else, and then people can go to one place to find all the shows, like Jeremy, me, others. Hit us up if you're thinking about that, because we kind of need a home, don't we?
Yeah, that's something that we've discussed, and I've discussed this with Greg specifically. Even is precisely that. So creating some type of not just a publishing house, but a video sharing site. For the Alex Jones fans out there, Mad Max Television, for example, like there's a show, there's a URL that has shows, and it's 24/7, and they're all there, and the scheduling is there, and boom, and it just plays nonstop. These are the types of things that we want to achieve, and if we don't do it, somebody will do it.
Well, I'm telling you, others are starting now, so I'm suggesting maybe.
So we need to collaborate, right? Like whoever, we're not in the position where we want to be the Ahab. That's not at all. It's like where does this go? We all got to work together work together. Yeah.
Because what I'm envisioning is basically the audiences are all basically the same, but we don't want to dilute and spread the audience over multiple shows. So if we can schedule things in such a way that you do get 10 hours of Patriot talk a day, that's, I think, is it's either going to happen organically or someone's going to step up and do it. And I've already been approached by at least 2 people that want to do it. I don't trust them. I don't know them. And I do know podcasters that are now starting to say, hey, we need to coordinate our shows so that we have the best audience and the best production possible. So I just put it out there that I'd be happy to chat with you guys some more about putting my show inside of a syndication of some sort.
Amazing.
Because I think we need that.
Yeah, agreed. On all those spaces, right? Video, music, art, paint, like all of it.
Patriot music, Patriot video, Patriot.
Right.
I think Greg and I know Zahena. I know artists that actually play music. That would be all over that. I would be all over that as a fan or as somebody that wants to consume it, because we don't really have that. We've got Raging Dissident with Jeremy. We got me. We got Zach. We got you. We kind of want a TV guide almost, like where can we see who's coming up where and have that coordination. Now, I don't know if we need to centralize it and take control or anything, but we can be working together.
Well, you hit the nail on the head where what is lacking is organizational experience. There's no organization. And that's something that we actually excel at. So, my team is all military, but officer to senior NCO, and we're good at that. And not to say that other people aren't, but there's various aspects, right? There's the organizational structural piece, and then there's the entrepreneurial piece, and then there's the creative piece, and there's all these various pieces. You bring all those together, magic happens, and that's how you win wars. So
Right.
just that collaboration is what's missing.
Yeah, we don't need to defund the CBC. We just need to replace them. And the
Mhm.
market could create something, and the market
Exactly.
will move.
Yep. Yep. And people will choose, and that's that.
Well, sign me up as to be at that first meeting where it's discussed and there's some spitballing. I am an entrepreneur. I have a strong background in
Yes.
entrepreneurship. I built businesses and sold businesses to American companies and stuff like that. So if you want a grassroots startup guy, I created Startup Peel in the Peel region. So look, let's leverage all of our skill sets here. We all went to different schools. Now we come together and maybe we can put this stuff to work.
Yeah, man.
So I'm down. I'm down,
Okay,
brother.
sweet. I love to hear it. This is and time is on our side. The Afghan saying is they have the watch, we have the time. They're on a clock.
Bon. Yeah.
We're living life, man. We're watching.
Well, let me be the one that ushers you into your relaxation mode now. This was the last interview I think you had scheduled, and now you can kind of just relax for a bit and
Yeah.
start looking at that maple tree, get that sugar shack going. I want to try your pears and apples. I'm building an orchard as well, so
Nice.
we'll swap some from Ontario with Alberta. We'll have an apple day or something.
Love
But
it.
the tea party, the thing that happened for 1776 was over tea. And I've joked in the past that maybe we need to pour a bunch of maple syrup in a port at some point. So maybe you're going to produce that maple syrup. Maybe we're in 1775 right now. Who knows what the future has for Canada? But we have patriots here. So
Well,
I'm very
I don't live in Quebec, so I don't have to fight the mafia there, the maple syrup mafia. So I'm a little bit more flexible with regards to my.
That is true. And I remember
they're
like
a
a
mob
2
out there,
million.
man.
Yeah, I remember like a $2 million stolen maple syrup at
Oh
one
yeah,
point.
it's a syndicate, dude. Like
That and
armed.
dairy, from what I understand.
It's quite violent, actually.
So maybe the next time Josh needs security, you bring the maple syrup people in. Protect them that
I
way.
don't know what kind of payment they take, but I'll find out.
Probably digital currency with digital ID. Who knows? But thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you taking the full 2 hours to sit down
Honor's
with
mine.
me.
Honor's mine.
Yeah. And I think we'll do some more smaller things throughout the summer. I could get you on for 10 or 15 minutes for other things. But
Absolutely.
I'm going to relax. And when you're ready to come back, if you want to come back and chat with me again, I'd be happy to have you on. And if you want to start something in the background about what we could be doing later this year about some sort of platform that we can all share,
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. And I know many others are down for that.
Okay, amazing. It's the honor's mine. I love the work that you're doing, and how quickly you've done it. Your ability to communicate and collaborate with people is a gift. So please keep doing what you're doing and continue to inspire people, even those who need to take a break. Everyone needs to take a break, and then there are people that are like, hey, maybe I can do this too, right? So it's this cyclical. It's like seasonal thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it is natural and it's organic, and that's the way forward, I believe. So keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's coming from a combat engineer. That means a lot to me. Thank you a lot, Alex. And I will talk to you again soon, brother.
Okay,
You
right
take
on,
care.
man. Peace.
Peace. Holy, I feel like a giddy boy sometimes because, boy, that was quite the conversation to have with quite the individual. This is the fabric of Canada. These are the people that make us up. This is what makes us to be proud. This is why we sing, "Oh, Canada." It's people like Alex who did go into the trenches for us. He took down some bridges and he put up some bridges. He did what he had to do. And then he comes back to Canada to enjoy his time, and he has to worry about needles and people attacking people that are fighting for freedom. It sounds like it was almost more dangerous in Canada than anything else he went to do. You should be ashamed of yourselves, the ones that made that happen. He should be coming home and enjoying the land that he kept free, not worrying about being stuck. Level 1 body armor to be safe? My goodness, this is Ottawa. And these are not enemies that are being attacked here. These are some crazy people attacking good people. So look, my heart goes out to Alex. He's going to have a bit of a break. He's been a trooper, a soldier. He's been fighting for us more than a lot of you will ever know. So I'm very pleased to be able to call him a friend and a brother. And yeah, those are some pretty big shoes he's got there. And if I can walk in it just a little bit, if I can do a little bit of what he did, which is to remind people that patriotism is a thing and we should be proud of it, not run away from it. So I'm totally down with whatever this guy is going to be doing in the future and the people around him. because he's attracting all the good ones. That's what happens when you're a good person. So if you want to follow into Alex's footsteps, pick up a camera, pick up a mic, just start chatting. Call me up, call him up, call someone else up. We'll be a guest. We'll help you out because we need a lot more of these conversations. I'm just an Alberta dude doing my thing, and I'm just really intrigued in meeting people. But we need other people out there that are hard hitters, who want to get in there, get the information, want to hold people accountable, want to find out the true story. We need people like that out there. They're not going to get it from the media, but you'll get it from people who actually care about this country. And that's what service is. You serve your country, whether you're picking up a gun, building a bridge, or protecting a 17-year-old student advocate from HIV needles because somebody wants to hurt him. I'm with this guy 100%. Brother, I will go anywhere with you. You take care, Alex. All of you that are in my chat, you take care as well. We're just getting started. I think this is the new Canada. Love you all. God bless.